Hello. Today I've got for you good news, bad news, and fake news. The good news is that supply chain has finally reached the important level that it deserves. Everyone is now talking about it. Everyone has now heard of it. That's great news. The bad news? Supply chain is being blamed for every problem that we have on Earth. And the fake news? Well, that emanates from several places. Two of the most noticeable are Wall Street Journal and New York Times articles that said that JIT is to blame for all of this. Now, being journalists, they had sources, and the sources that they quoted were executives of companies that said that they had reduced their inventories following the philosophy of just in time. And now they realize the folly of that, especially in light of the global nature of our supply chains, the complexities. And now they're all going to stock back up on inventory. Demand for warehousing is extraordinary, beyond what fast promised lead times had created. But this is fake news. JIT, as defined by Toyota and created by Toyota for Toyota, is not an inventory strategy. It's simply not. It's a goal. The goal is to get the product to the customer just in time. And to do that, they're trying to solve every problem from beginning to end. Years ago, they talked about the 3-day car. How could you place your order and they would make it and get it to you within 3 days? So just in time is a way to raise that iceberg, lower that water to see more problems and fix them. And that has always been the Toyota approach. But many of us are too darn lazy to look beyond clever titles or descriptions of tools to really understand what's behind them. And we simply can't afford to be that lazy. And this is a perfect example. If you think that JIT means moving your inventories as close to zero as you can get them, you don't understand JIT. It doesn't make you a bad person, but it's a poor craftsman that blames his tool. So what we really need to understand is what's the opportunity that this crisis has provided. Well, and once again, Toyota is not a perfect company by any stretch of the imagination, but we can sometimes learn from them. So if we're going to blame their tool, let's look back at how they use it, and let's think about a little over a decade ago when a huge earthquake totally destroyed significant parts of Japan. Now, Toyota got their operations up and running fairly quickly because of strategic partnerships, not because of brilliant inventory management. But they did take that opportunity to say, we really need better supply chain visibility, and we understand that now. So they spent the next several years understanding all the depths and all the varieties of their supply chain as much as they could so far. They're still working on that. They identified bottlenecks. They identified high-risk and low-risk scenarios. And they put strategies in place to help them manage those potential disruptions. So why are we not hearing about Toyota having massive chip problems where all the other automakers have had to shut down? Well, they identified chips many months ago as a potential problem, and they said they're really pretty inexpensive and they don't take much space. It makes sense for us to buy a several month supply in advance. Now, you might think that's the antithesis of lean, that's the antithesis of JIT. It's not. It's learning and protecting your customer. It's learning and protecting your own operations. It's learning the right lessons. So if you think the lesson to be learned from the COVID pandemic related supply chain problems is to jack up your inventory levels, you're learning the wrong lesson. The real lesson here is to better understand our supply chain and position inventories where they make sense so that we can all best meet the needs of our customers. Let's be careful when we slap around terms and say that's to blame or this is to blame or something else is to blame. Let's make sure that we truly understand what we're talking about. And sadly, we can't even trust those venerable publications, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, and certainly there are more. Let's take the time to learn and to learn the right lessons. JIT is not to blame.